Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. This is Mireille, the Greatness Engineer, as you know me. It is a pleasure to come again and bring you an interesting, subject, but an interesting guest first. We're going to talk about thriving after divorce. So that's, I think, something that we really want to know, because sometimes when we have problems, or when we go through divorce, it's not always easy to pick up the pieces and do something with it. But today my guest will actually tell us how she managed to actually expand and break through after she got divorced, and talk about her business, which is a business that is going global. And you might actually be interested to be part of it. So just to give you a short introduction, today we're having Laura Ericson. She is the founder of Laura Ericson Group Trips. And as you can imagine, we are talking about traveling. Our business is about traveling. She'll be able to tell us a little bit more about it. I'm going to give you just a short introduction, and she'll have the opportunity to give you a little bit more about herself. Like I mentioned, she's the owner of Ericson Group Trips. This is a boutique, group travel tour company, and she's gonna let us know, explain to us how it works and the type of business model that she's using. But before that, she was working, in higher education. So she worked in the higher education for 14 years and then got divorced. And that's when everything started. So she will be able to let us know a little bit more. But just to let us know, just let us know where you're watching from. Tell us, and if you have, a question for Laura, please don't hesitate to come in and to participate. That's, this show is for you, and we really want you to get something out of it. And I will encourage you also to have a pen and a paper, so that you can, take notes and really, get something from this conversation. And the most important thing, get to apply it and share with anyone you feel like can, benefit from it. So let's not, take more time. I'm going to bring Laura with us now. So don't go anywhere. We're starting. Another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show that is brought to you by the Mireille Telekima Global Leadership Organization.
Real is important is if you just look at the word compassion, it's behavior. It's something that can be learned, and it is something that we can embody through habits and through our daily actions.
To get this idea that if we interject this wisdom intentionally, I call them needle movers. It's the needle mover that's missing.
Don't deprive the world of your greatness. Please. Don't do that anymore. Dare to excel, dare to be sexy, dare to be you, dare to be the best version of yourself. Impact yourself positively, and from there impact others. And you are not alone.
So welcome, Laura, to the
Hi.
Greatness Engineering Hour show. It is a pleasure to have you, and I'm actually excited to know a little bit more about, your story and how you managed to go from, a situation that was quite chaotic to now thriving, not only in your business, but also in your life. But before we reach this point, just want you to add, to the introduction that I gave about you, if there's something that I've missed out, or if there's something that you want people to know that that is really important to, for them to know. So the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks for having me. So, a little bit about my story is, like you mentioned, I worked in higher education at a college for 14 years, but I also always traveled. I've been a traveler since I was a small child. I grew up traveling with my parents. I got married 10 years ago and ended up getting a divorce, obviously. But during that time, I felt like I didn't travel as much as I wanted to. I kind of ended up doing the same thing year to year. So when I got a divorce, I decided that not only did I want to do something different with my life, but I also wanted to prioritize travel. Um, so I got divorced 5 years ago. So I'm like 5 years out of it now. And in the last year and a half, I completely turned my life upside down by starting a travel business. So I found that when I wanted to start traveling more, I couldn't find anybody to go with me because I'm in my late 30s, single. And so it was just very challenging to find anyone else who could go with me, who a lot of my friends had partners or they had children or they just couldn't get time off of work. So I started planning trips for other people, sometimes strangers, just so I could have somebody to go with me. And I found that people really enjoyed having somebody plan a trip for them. So then I kind of turned that idea into a full-fledged business. So now I plan trips for other people and actually go with them so that they have somebody to travel with.
Fantastic. This is really amazing because you're basically doing something that you love, but at the same time, you get, some benefit from it. But, one thing that I really wanted to know, because like I mentioned before, it can really be hard, when you get divorced. So how did, just to understand, how did this transition, work out? And what are the key things that you think have helped you to get where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a pleasant time for me getting a divorce. I don't think it is for anybody. And I struggled pretty significantly at first, just starting over financially and just doing everything on my own after being with a partner for 10 years is just a major, major change. Um, and I would say also, in the last 5 years, I've had other relationships too. So it wasn't just divorce. I had a really bad breakup a couple of years ago during the pandemic. Um, and I had a very hard time getting over that. And I realized that, they say like whenever you're trying to get over a breakup or heartbreak, you're supposed to find the things that you love and, basically do those things. Well, for me in 2020, the thing that I loved the most was travel, and I couldn't do it at all because of COVID. And so it was a really, really challenging time for me because all I wanted to do was kind of get away and use travel to escape like many people do, and I couldn't at all. So eventually I finally started traveling around the US and Mexico because Mexico allowed people in. And slowly things started to open up. And as they were reopening, I was going really anywhere I could. I went to Colombia. And it was really like that trip that kind of changed things for me. It just made me realize like it was going to be okay. And that travel really was like therapeutic for me and that it could do that for other people as well.
And that's the thing, sometimes you just need to, leave things behind and go somewhere where you will, get to discover yourself and really, start to hope for, for the future. And I think that's what traveling is doing. And just to when did the idea of, because you basically love traveling, and you knew that that was really what you wanted to do. But did you know from the beginning that you wanted to turn it into a business? If not, what trigger the fact that you basically turn your passion into a business?
Yeah, I think in the last probably 5 years or so, I knew like I wanted to start a business. I just, in like many people who want to start a business, often you don't know what you want to do. You just know you want to start a business, and that's not generally enough. I also like knew I would love to do something with travel where I could make that a job. But again, a lot of people probably would love to make travel a job, but it's easier said than done. So I would say it wasn't my initial intention. I would say in 2020, I had the idea of it, but it wasn't something I was actually like seriously considering. But when I took that trip to Colombia, this was early 2021, so early last year. When I took that trip, I went with somebody that I had never met before, and I planned the entire trip out like I would want for myself, and did it for her as well. And it was throughout that experience that I realized like, okay, I think I actually like have something here. And the person I was traveling with, I had told her what my idea was, and she thought it was a great idea too. So it was really after that that I took it more seriously. That was so March 2021, and by the summer I had like opened a business and kind of got started in the process of actually doing this for people.
I mean, it's one thing to start, a business, but you have to give it a structure. So how, did you feel a difference from when, you were just taking it as, a hobby or passion to moving to a business? What was the difference? Did you feel something? Did you see a difference? What did you do differently to turn it into a business?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge difference. Now, like when I travel, I don't, unfortunately, travel usually for me now isn't like just a fun thing. It's my job. So it definitely has changed. They say when you make your passion your job, you have to be careful because it totally changes the dynamic and the purpose for what you're doing. But I basically started, previously when I would travel, I generally would like plan out trips, but I do it now much more intentionally. So if I'm going somewhere, I have it like pre-planned, and I kind of go at it knowing that if I'm gonna take people to this place later, there's certain things that I need to do while I'm there and take advantage of being in that location. So like I meet with guides while I'm there. I try out different things on the itinerary. I have to take tons of photos and video, which I generally like previously would never take pictures of myself traveling. It's just not something I was interested in. But I've learned like that is something that helps market and advertise and sell what I'm doing. And so now when I travel, I have to have somebody taking photos of me, for example. So I've just had to learn a different way of traveling, even if I'm doing it for vacation, because my business is on social media and I'm advertising the concept of travel to people. I just have to kind of look at it differently.
And that's because the way I can imagine is that you don't have an office like the normal travel agent. You just you do it remotely, and that's a different business model. And as you said, people need to connect, and you have to show the visual before they can actually trust you. So let's just see who we have here. We have Liliane. Liliane is based in Switzerland. Hello, Liliane. Thanks for tuning in. And Liliane has a comment. She's okay. So sorry for the divorce. Seconded by a breakup. I think there is time for everything, and your needs matter. So that's thanks, Liliane, for the support. And fortunately, Laura managed to break through and leave all the pieces behind. So that's fantastic. And we have Nasreen. Nasreen is I think Nasreen is in India, so she's tuning in and also supporting us here. So we're just going to have a break, and we will be back with Laura and continue this conversation to understand Laura's business and how she managed to break through, and she's helping people to get the best trips, that the dream trip that they want. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in a few minutes. So we are back. We are back with Laura, and if you're joining us, we're talking about thriving after divorce, so thriving in business, but also in a personal life. So, Laura, just to because we were talking about your business and the business model that you adopted for to help people to get the best trips. So what makes you, what do you think makes people come to you? Because there's a lot of competition, in the travel, in the travel industry. So what do you think makes you, authentic and, have people come and ask for your help for their trips?
Yeah, when I got divorced, I did it very quietly. I didn't tell anybody. And it wasn't until after I started my business that I really started talking about it. And it was almost like accidentally that I realized in that process that there were a lot of people like me out there, and that by me sharing my story, it was actually helping people. I had no idea that anyone even cared about my story. And so, once I started talking a little bit more openly about things I've been through and things I've struggled with, I noticed that a lot of other women and even men, like people who are getting separated, going through divorces, have been through divorces, a lot of those people started kind of gravitating towards me, reaching out to me, sending me emails, sending me messages, asking for advice, and asking about travel as a way to get through divorce. So like I said, it was kind of unintentional, but I realized that, again, like my story was helping people. And generally, I've found that a lot of single people, a lot of people who've been through divorce or going through divorce are the people that are joining my trips, because they've realized that, one, they can travel with other people who are maybe going through similar things and travel with me who's been through something similar. And also that just divorce has such a healing component to it. And that, like, I personally think like travel is like the best way to get over anything in your life, honestly. But in particular divorce, I just think it's like a great way to start over.
And that's the thing. Sometimes we don't think that telling our story can actually interest anybody, and we get surprised, and that's why we encourage people to talk about, to share their stories, to connect with people, especially when it's a difficult time in their life, just to share. And you can be really surprised to see that there are a lot of people connecting with this story and actually being attracted to you because they can relate, and because they can also see how coming together can help them. And that's very important. But just to ask you, what are the region that you're covering in your business, And how do you choose the places for your clients?
No, that's a great question. That's something that's actually really important to me. So as you mentioned, like you can find anybody to travel with. It's not hard to find a travel company. It's not hard to find group travel. It's everywhere. For me, what I think is super important within my business is finding locations that are authentic and traveling in an authentic way. And so that can be hard to do with a group because you're on a tour. And I think sometimes group travel gets a bad reputation as being touristy. And so when I pick locations, I pick places that I personally love. I don't ever take people to a place I haven't been. I don't feel right about doing that. So these are all places that I have personally been and explored myself and felt like they are worth bringing people back to. But I generally focus on places that I feel get a lot less attention than they deserve. For example, Colombia is one of my favorite countries in the entire world. People don't know a lot about it, and a lot of the things that they think they know about it aren't even true. Colombia has a bad reputation for drugs and the cartel and all of these things that happened in the 80s that people see Narcos. That's what they think of Colombia, and in reality, that is so far from what that country is actually like now. And they have an amazing story about how they have really like bounced back after all of that. Colombia is just like a fantastic place. And so I want to show people like what these countries are actually like and kind of help with break down some of those stereotypes that people have of certain countries that they think are dangerous. Same thing with Turkey. Like I absolutely adore Turkey. It's one of my favorite countries. It's beautiful. And yet a lot of people I think are afraid of it or they just like don't know a lot about it. And so I've gone there a couple of times and I show people pictures and I show videos and like people are just amazed that that is what Turkey looks like because they have this different image of it in their mind or they just like don't know anything about it. So I always tell people when they say like, when are you going to take us to Italy or when are you going to take us to France? It's like, well, I could do that and those are great places, but you don't necessarily need me to take you to a place like Paris. Like it's very navigatable. Like you can do it on your own. You can figure it out. It's fairly safe. I try to focus on places that are a little bit less known, maybe a little bit perceived to be dangerous if you go by yourself. And so, like I said, I my upcoming trips are like Morocco. I've done Turkey. I have Colombia, Mexico City. So these are all like beautiful places in the world that I think sometimes people are afraid to go to just because they just don't quite know what to expect or they're just afraid to go on their own.
And that's the problem sometimes, the lack of awareness, and then people start to believe what they see in the news or what they read in some of the newspapers without actually even knowing someone from there. And that can be very dangerous because you start to have all those stereotypes and people miss out on because like you said, Colombia is a very beautiful country. Countries like Morocco, I mean, it's so beautiful. Turkey as well. So when you hear the narrative, it can actually turn you down. And it is important that people understand that no, you have to go and see by yourself and judge by yourself. But how do you convince them? Because some of them might really come with those strong ideas and stereotype about countries. So how do you manage to shift their mindset to say, okay, we're going and we're ready to go there?
Yeah, that is a challenging thing. And I was just going to add one more thing to your previous comment. When I worked in higher education, I started my career in ESL, so English as a second language. And so I had students from all over the world. And I'm so grateful for that experience because I think that is part of what made me so curious about all these different places. I had a lot of students from Laos and Thailand and all over South America, and these people come with these amazing stories and they talk about how beautiful their countries are, and that really was what got me so curious about exploring some of these places that people know a little bit less about. But as far as convincing people, it's not my job to necessarily convince people, but I just show, like, again, it's the pictures and the videos are crucial to showing people what a place is like. A lot of times, when I'm showing people pictures and videos, they'll message me and say, I had no idea that this is what Colombia looked like. I'm so glad that you showed me this, because I never would have wanted to go there. So I do a lot on social media. When I travel, I post in my stories on Instagram and Facebook. And so a lot of people have started to follow along with me when I'm traveling. So I have people who comment and say, I probably will never go to this place, but I'm so grateful you've shown it to me. And I basically feel like I'm traveling along with you. So I've kind of unintentionally built this following of people that maybe aren't even going to travel, but they just like to watch from home and learn about new places. So I really think it is about showing people firsthand like what I'm experiencing. And so when I do my stories, I'm not just showing you pictures, I'm not just showing you like food, I'm showing you the people that I'm interacting with, and the people I'm meeting, the things that we're doing. And so I think if people follow along with me, they get a really good idea of what it's actually like in one of those countries. And if you're following along and you see that, it's pretty hard to like not want to go, because I'm showing, the best parts of every country. And so when people go out on my Instagram, they can click on Morocco, or they can click on Turkey or Colombia, and they can see step by step everything that I'm doing on a trip. It'll be hundreds of videos that will show you everything that I've done in different cities. And so it's really just showing people what I'm experiencing. And not everyone maybe wants to go to that place, and that's okay. So like I said, it's not my job necessarily to convince people, but just to show people like what else is out there, that there are other possibilities beyond going to Cancun every year, or going to the typical places in Europe that everyone goes, and that there's other things that you can do to travel in a authentic way.
And that's important that even now, because we live in a globalized world, so obviously there's a lot happening online, but it's always good to go and touch the reality, and talk to the people, and to understand their culture, to understand their philosophy, to understand how and also learn new languages, and because it can help for us to grow, and that's an important aspect of it. So I mean, you managed to to create this following and have people who are actually interested to what you're doing, and you basically travel with them, even when when you go to the countries. You are basically the you plan the trip, and you also the guide, the guide tour, those guide tour that we normally go to when we travel to places. Is that correct? Hello?
Sorry, you cut out for just 1 second there, so I didn't hear can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Just wanted to, I just wanted to ask, how do you actually work? Because it looks like you're doing everything. But as I understand, your business is growing. So how are you going to manage all of this? Because that's quite a lot.
It is. And I was just going to comment, I'm not actually the tour guide. So when I take people to a country, I partner with a certified tour guide in that country. In most countries, you need to have a license to be a guide, and you can only be a guide for that country. So being a tour guide is not a universal term. And so nor do I have like the knowledge about every country to be a tour guide. I always explain that to people, because it's just something that's often misunderstood, is that people think that I'm their tour guide. And then when we get there, they're like, well, if you're not the tour guide, then what are you doing? So I'm basically making sure that I plan the trip. I design the trip. I get everyone booked, and I'm, behind the scenes getting everybody ready, answering their questions, helping them book flights. Before we go on the trip, I'm preparing them for everything that they need to know for, if you go on an international trip for the first time, generally there's questions that you're going to have, especially when it's a maybe less familiar place like Morocco, for example. The currency is very different. The language is very different. It's just more of an unknown place for most Americans. And so I have to prepare people to know, you know, what do they need to pack? What do they need to know about money? What are maybe some things they need to know about like scams or things that could happen? I always give people lots of safety tips that are specific to that country. So I'm preparing people ahead of time. But then once we're on the trip, my job really is just to make sure that the trip is going smoothly, that everybody has everything they need, that everyone's showing up on time, that everybody knows where they're going. And so the guide, their job is to, we have a driver generally and a guide. And so their job is to take you to the places that are on the itinerary and talk about them and share the history and share stories and take you to these, you know, places that are maybe off the beaten path, things that only locals would know about a country. They have all these connections that I could never possibly have. So that's their role. And then mine is just kind of to partner with them and represent my group and make sure that everything is going well. And if any issues come up, I'm there for them. As far as like doing it all, I mean, I literally am doing it all when I'm on these trips. You know, it's a common misconception is that people think that I'm on vacation. People always ask me.
That's the thing. That's the question that I wanted to ask is that, you know, people must think you're available 24 hours, you know, a day.
People think usually when I see somebody, they're like, how was your last vacation? And I'm like, what vacation are you talking about? Because like this, I love it, but this is nothing like a vacation for me. Because I say that my job is to make sure that their vacation is going well. It's like being a wedding. It's like being a wedding planner, except the wedding is in a foreign country and it goes for 10 days. I'm on all the time, making sure that everybody is happy and comfortable and having a good time. So that's my role. I just happen to be doing it in a beautiful country. So again, not complaining, but my job is anything but vacation. And then I'm also doing all my photos and videos. I'm taking photos of my group. I'm sending them pictures every day to make sure that they have pictures to show their friends and family all the fun things that they're doing. And then I'm posting on social media every night. I usually post like 20 stories every night to show what we did that day. And I have to keep up with that. And on top of that, I'm running a business at home too. So my business doesn't just stop while I'm traveling for 10 days in a foreign country. So I have all these other trips that, you know, I'm also selling and promoting, and people have questions about those too. So yeah, it's a lot because every time I get home, I'm just that much more behind because I've been with this group in another country for 10 days. And then now all the things that happen with my business have just kind of been sitting, waiting for me to get back. And so I am definitely at that point where I need help. I have about five freelancers that help me for different reasons. But I'm at the point that I need probably a full-time person to help me just because it's getting way too hard to catch up when I get home.
That's what I thought, and that's what I was, you know, asking the question is that how does she handle all of this? And it's at some point, especially now that you're getting more clients, it can be very challenging. But what are the key, the key challenges? Because obviously there's, now you're getting really busy and you need help. But what challenge that you had that you would say, wow, I really struggle with this aspect of my job, and it actually, and what lesson did you learn from it?
Yeah, I would say right now, I mean, one of the biggest challenges, I work a lot. I sometimes work till 10 p.m. I'd say I don't ever count my hours because as an entrepreneur, you don't really do that the way that you do maybe when you work for somebody else at a 9 to 5. I feel like when I worked in my previous job, I always knew pretty much more or less how many hours I put in every week. Like now I couldn't tell you how much I work because one, I work way more. I don't really think about it that way because like I'm not getting paid hourly or by somebody else. So it doesn't really matter. But also like my work blends into my day to day, like all the time. So even if I'm off, I'm still always kind of working, I'm always checking email. I'm always answering messages. I'm always, doing little things here and there, even on my days off, which I don't really have. So I would say like, for me, the biggest challenge has been boundaries and separating my business from my life, like has been very, very hard. Especially because I just work a lot. And so, when I'm when I'm out with friends and somebody's messaging me questions, or I'm working with a guide in another country and our time zones are so drastically different that, I feel like when they're messaging me, I have to answer because that's when they're working. And when I'm working, they're sleeping. And so a lot of times it's just like things like that, like where I just feel like it's hard to stop sometimes, because I just feel like I have to answer when the messages are coming in, and they're coming in at all different hours. So it's been challenging to turn it off, if you will. Even like when I'm laying in bed at night, I'm reading a book about business, or I am watching a video about marketing, or, it's just like kind of living and breathing entrepreneurship. I think in your first few years is pretty normal, but it's also challenging.
Yeah, you have to be, you have to be resilient, because it is brutal sometimes. So you have to, get ready. And what is, the obviously you like, traveling, you like what you do, but what do you think give you the most satisfaction, when you do this work, you plan all of this, and you have, your clients really, enjoying. So what is the satisfaction that you get from it?
Yeah, that really is it. It's the people that come on these trips. The beautiful thing about it is that we generally all start as strangers, and people are always scared about that. They're like, who am I traveling with? Who are these people? Am I going to like them? Is this going to be weird? And very quickly, everybody gravitates towards each other and becomes friends. And by the end of a trip, you would be surprised how close people can become after spending 7 to 10 days together. And so by the end of it, everyone is friends. My last trip, I had 2 people start dating from being on the trip. But because I have men and women on these trips sometimes. But people just become friends. They start traveling together. We're still talking to each other long after the trip. We're all friends on social media. And when I see people sharing their trip photos and saying how meaningful it was for them, and how it's helping people kind of have similar experiences that I did, that where travel is changing their life. Travel is helping them get over difficult things. It's helping them make new friendships or come out of their shell. And so it's great to see like that kind of ripple effect that travel is having on other people who maybe otherwise like wouldn't have done something like this. I've had several people who have said like this is their first, solo trip, where I don't think of group travel as solo, but like for them, traveling for the first time without their friends and their family, and traveling with a group of strangers, flying on their own, planning this on their own. Like for a lot of people, that is like a solo trip, because they're doing it by themselves with the comfort of maybe some other people, but not people that they know. So it's been great to see people try new things in that way as well.
Yeah, it can be very interesting, isn't it, to have people connect, and like you said, some of them dating, so they get double of what they were looking for, which is really good. And I can imagine, and especially I think after COVID, having those people coming and going out, it must have been so so enjoyable for them to be out and really enjoying meeting people and just enjoying themselves really, and discovering new things. So we're gonna have another break, and we'll be back to continue this very exciting conversation. And I hope that you getting the appetite to to connect with Laura later on for your next trip, because as you can see, things can happen during those trips, even if you don't know any of the people that you're gonna join. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in a few minutes. are back with Laura, and we're having a very interesting conversation about thriving in business and in life after business. And if you've been listening, you see that, it's possible, and it's possible to change your life. It's possible to go from a low to a high and really enjoy, the breakthrough after a difficult period. But just to continue, Laura, what do you think, you've learned from all this process that you went through? I mean, obviously you went from, your divorce and then some other, breakups or any, challenge. And now, serving people, and helping them to go through their own challenges. What would you say are the two key things that you've learned from this?
Yeah, I think number one is just to not be afraid to start over, whether that's in a relationship or in your career. I just don't think it's like ever too late to start over or reinvent yourself. So I'm not telling people to like just go out and quit their jobs, but if there's something that you've really always wanted to do, I always tell people just do it. Like figure out a plan and figure out a way and make it happen, because I just think life is way too short to sit around kind of wishing and hoping that you could do something differently. You definitely have the ability to change your own situation and change your own life, whatever that might be. The other thing that I've learned, I think that is the most powerful thing, is to be by myself. A lot of people, and I talked to so many divorced women and or people going through divorce, and they're always just worried, like, what if I never find somebody again? Or what if I, whatever, like they're worried about like partnering up again. And I've been single for the most part of like 5 years, and not that I will always be single, I don't know, but what I've learned by being single and being by myself is that I'm perfectly fine on my own, and I don't need another person to provide me happiness. And that is like one of the most powerful things that I think anybody can ever learn, is to be content with yourself, to love yourself, and to be kind of independent on your own. I just think so many people are so attached to another human, and that like provides them all of their self-worth and happiness. And it's okay to be alone. It's okay to be by yourself. It doesn't have to be forever, but I think I challenge like everybody to be alone at some point in their life and just see what it's like to be with yourself and not somebody else.
And it is powerful what you're saying, because it starts with us. We need to be okay with ourselves, to love ourselves. And when we are in a position where we empower ourselves, then we can give in a relationship. And I think that's sometimes what we miss, especially people who have breakups. They want to go straight into a relationship without basically sitting down and understanding, what was their role in this, in this breakup, and how can they, start to love themselves so that, they attract love as well, instead of, forcing it. And that's a very powerful statement that you've just made. And I hope that, the audience understand that, or if you have someone who is, in the same situation, to really stress this out, is, you have to love yourself first before people can love you, and otherwise it's a challenge. So just to we're getting already we're getting close to the end of this conversation. Just wanted to ask you if there's something that you have to to tell us that is happening in your business or in your life, or something that you want to share with us before we leave the platform.
Yeah, if anybody is interested in connecting with me or learning more about my trips, I am happy to chat with you. My website is lauraericson.com, so you can just find me there. I have several trips coming up for 2023, My next one is Morocco in April and May. The April trip is full, but the May one still has a few spots left. So if anybody is interested in going to Morocco, fabulous, fabulous country. It is one of the coolest places I have ever been. We're going to be doing all kinds of things. It's essentially like a road trip that starts in Casablanca. We make our way through Chefchaouen and Fez, and then we glamp in the Sahara Desert and ride camels, and then we make our way all the way down to Marrakesh. It's an amazing trip. So if anyone is interested in that, I still have a few spots. I'm going to Colombia again this summer. Colombia, again, amazing country, super beautiful, lots of amazing culture and music and art and history and food and dancing. And then I'm going to be working on a few more trips that in between, but the next one that I have open right now is Mexico City for Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is something that's become like very near and dear to my heart. I go to Mexico City every year now for Day of the Dead, and I bring people and show them like what it's like to celebrate Day of the Dead in Mexico. It's like a once in a lifetime experience to be there during that time and see all of the things that they're doing. We go to a cemetery on Day of the Dead and observe people mourning for their loved ones and see how they celebrate death instead of be sad over it, essentially. So that's a really, really powerful trip for people as well. And then the next one that I'm working on that I will be going on is Cuba. So Cuba is, again, another place that I think people don't know a lot about, or they're scared to go to, or they don't know how to travel there because of the issues between the US and Cuba. And so that will be for a year from now. Next New Year's, I'll be taking people.
So some amazing destination. I've been to Morocco. It's beautiful. I've been to Marrakesh. So I would encourage the audience to go to Morocco. It's a beautiful country, and I've heard a lot about Colombia. And I have a lot of Colombia friends here. So it's about time that I start to organize a trip for you to go to Colombia and and get to experience the culture and the food. The food is just so amazing. So thanks, Laura, for sharing this. And there is always a question that I like asking my guests. And the question is, what is the legacy that you want to leave? I know you've done all of this, and you're serving, like I said, you're serving people, you're bringing all this joy to the people. But what did you think about the legacy that you want to leave through everything that you are doing?
That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah, I guess I just want to know, like, I would want to know that I made an impact on somebody in some kind of way, whether it's somebody that's coming on my trips and just expanded their minds about travel or another place, or even in these countries that we're going to, knowing that something that I did helped, change somebody's life in some kind of way. That, I think with travel, I'm very careful about like over tourism and the negative impact sometimes tourism can have on a place. And so my mission is to leave a place better than you found it. And so as I expand my business, like that will be one of my main missions, is to give back to a country and not just take, and make sure that when you leave a place, like you left it better than you found it.
Fantastic. This is beautiful. I hope that you enjoyed, the conversation with Laura. And as you can see, she is changing lives through travel. And it is very, it is very important, especially in such a time where there's a rat race. People are just working, they're just going all over the place, and they're stressed. So this is a time to really take a break, enjoy, and really get to discover other culture, not through just the media, the social media. Just go and meet people and experience their culture and get to know them. So that's the most important bit. So we have Stefan is here. Hi, Stefan. Thank you for coming. Stefan is tuning in from West Africa, in Côte d'Ivoire. So fabulous, Laura, and so dynamic of to receive you here in West Africa. So here you go, Laura. There are other destinations that you can add to your business. Thanks, Stefan, for being with us. And that's what it's all about. And I hope that, if you want to have more information, I hope you're going to connect with Laura. If you want to have more information, please, let me know. Or I think Laura, so what I got from Laura is her Instagram, so you can see what she's doing and connect with her. And there's also the Facebook. I think the Facebook, there's a group, so you can join a group as well, and get to interact with with people in our community, and also connect with her on Facebook. So don't leave this opportunity on the table. It is something that is coming to you at your doorstep. So don't brush it away. Thank you again, Laura, for being with us. It has been very dynamic, like Stefan was saying, and very interesting to know about your business and this very authentic business model that you're using to bring value, joy, and happiness to people who've actually gone through a difficult experience. So thank you very much for being with us. And for my community, I will be back tomorrow for another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, and we're gonna stay in the US, and we're going to Silicon Valley tomorrow. So don't forget to connect. And until tomorrow, I wish you all the best, to enjoy the rest of your day, or wherever you are. For me, it's gonna be a good night. And I have enjoyed my conversation with Laura. And Laura, I'm gonna thank you again for being, an amazing guest, and for sharing all, about your business and the different, processes you went through to get where you are. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.